Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Coach's Corner University podcast. I am your host, Paul O'Need, and we're back to ad reads. This podcast is sponsored by TC Nutrition for all your supplement needs and the best tasting supplements on the market that are all CGMP certified and safe for sport. Use code TCXONEED to save over there. It's also sponsored by X Factor Labs for all of your peptide needs. Next Level Strength Co. for all of your knee sleeves and wrist wraps and equipment needs. Those two are code ONEED. And then finally, we are sponsored by Barefoot Shoes. Use code ONEED to save 10% over there. Today, I am joined once again by one of my favorite follows on social media and all around, honestly, slept on dudes in the training world, Mr. Jason Colley. Welcome to the podcast again.
Much appreciated. Flattered, of course.
Oh, that's what I do. I just pump people's tires and then, hopefully we have a great conversation. But I know this conversation is going to be awesome because you've been posting rants in your stories. And one of the things that I appreciate about a good rant is when it finishes with something actionable. So, what was the impetus for starting to speak more openly about the training space? Because you're someone who in general tends to keep to himself. You fly under the radar, tremendous amount of knowledge, but you keep it a little close to the chest, usually outside of PTU. Where did this all stem from?
Um, I mean, you're 100% correct on all fronts right there. I guess I've been doing this for a long time. So, like, when you've been doing something for a long time, and I've also been trying to be a voice of trying to push good training knowledge, good coaching knowledge out for a long time. And sometimes that it just doesn't take. And so you go through kind of, peaks and valleys of like, you know what, fine. If people aren't going to listen, I'm not going to put it out there. And then I said, you know what, just fuck that. I'm just going to put it out there, and I'm going to put it out in my way,
Mm-hmm.
in my grumpy old man way, because that's who I am. But my better half, she always is the kind of the angel sitting on my shoulder, like, listen, if you're going to be putting that your grumpy ass old man opinion out there, why don't you put some value in it too? And I
Mm-hmm.
said, you're right. I don't want to just get out there and gripe, because no one wants to listen to that. So I said, you know what? I'll do exactly what you said. I'll try and put in something actionable at the end of it, or at least get people thinking about how maybe they can view what I just said and take that into their own training, and then say, hey, maybe I can reflect and look what I'm doing at here, and maybe this kind of will correspond to me. Maybe it will light something in me where I can use that and take that home. And that's kind of where I started to, I really just don't give a shit whether people don't like it or not. I'm going to add value.
Mm.
That's who I want to be. I want to add value to the people who want value. And sometimes there's just in this space, as well as I know, sometimes they're charlatans and there's no value. And I'm like, listen, if I have all this value to offer, I'm on this planet, this rock for so many years, I might as well just spit out what I have to say.
There's a lot to pull out of that. I mean, I resonate very deeply with the fact that, hey, I'm offering all of this value, but I'm not getting the traction that I want to be getting, or, I have these maybe issues with the industry, so I'm just not going to post anything. I've always been of the mind, and this is kind of what keeps me going, despite, not having a ton of followers and all this sort of stuff. It's just the antidote to bad information is good information. At the end of the day, even if I don't have the loudest speaker, I still have a voice, and there are still, 9,600 people who might be listening or who might come across it. And if I can help at least a few of them, then I think I've done my job. So I resonate very deeply there. The other piece to pull out is that I think in general, there is a massive lack of critical thought. And we take that message from the loudest microphone and we apply it almost with impunity. Say, oh, this person said it, so it must be true.
Mm-hmm.
Critical thought to me has two elements. Number one, it's contingent on the fact that you have some base level of knowledge, which most people don't.
Right. Surface level.
Yeah, and number 2, that you are able to kind of fit this new knowledge into a framework and assess whether it's relevant to you or not. And you and I have been doing this long enough to know that you're never going to know if it's valuable until you try it. But in the same breath, some shit just isn't worth trying.
Mhm.
Where do you think, for us as educators, where do you think the line is between trying to build our microphone up and get more eyes on what we're doing? Because that in and of itself means that we need to be concerned with the opinions of others versus putting out the information we want to put out in the way we want to put it out, and then whoever hears it. Because there's two sides to that coin, right?
Right. You want to be able to quote unquote reach the masses. So your content has to look a certain way, or has to feel a certain way, or has to come off a certain way.
Mm,
But you also don't want to be disingenuous with who you are as a person, because
agree.
that's just not the type of person you and I are.
Mhm,
So I think there's some leeway. I think there's some take and give.
mhm,
I think you have to learn to be comfortable with maybe adding things that you weren't originally comfortable with. A lot of my posts or videos I put up are just me sitting on my porch with a cigar, saying, "This is what I see you guys do or see people do. There's better shit to do," right? Now, one of the things to the right of that spectrum that I don't normally do and I should be doing and will be doing will be kind of sprucing it up and making it look presentable more in a fashion that will attract more people, right?
mm,
I don't normally want to do that, but it's something that I know I have to do. And it's, again, if my message that I think is important, that I want to get out to people, then the minimum I can do is put forth that effort to kind of make it look or sound a presentable way.
yep,
But I am not going to go beyond a certain point in which it begins to be detrimental to the message at hand.
mhm,
If I get too worked up about how it looks or how it flows, or if it's a perfect carousel, or if it's a perfect reel, then I've lost the purpose of the whole entire aim, right? So I always
yep,
try and keep that in the back of my head. Am I getting the message across? Number one. Number two, is it going to be able to be captured by different demographics? Or at least the main demographic, trainers and coaches who are maybe frustrated or who maybe don't know what they need to know. So I think that line is different for every person, because some people who have been in this game for a long time, maybe it's that line is set a little bit lower, and some people who are newer, that line could be set a little bit higher. But for me, it's just making sure that I'm getting my message across. It's not becoming disingenuous, and I'm not allowing myself to be over focused on being a content creator versus an educator.
I think that's a great delineation to make because I've kind of found myself towing the line of what's the best way for me to get out as much information as possible to people who need it, but doesn't take away from who I am as a person. Because I mean, we meet people all the time where they have this internet persona, and I never want to
Mhm.
be that. I want to make sure that, when you and I meet in person, that I'm the same guy that you've been talking to online or that
Yeah,
whose content you've been consuming. And that's very important to me. The way that I've found to be most beneficial for me is I just have started making YouTube videos, like long form YouTube videos, and then clipping them up.
yeah,
It's the easiest way to get a ton of content from one large piece. It's low stress. I have an editor do it for me. And I just kind of tell him which pieces I want him to clip out, and he does it. And yes, that means that I have to pay for that service, but it allows me the opportunity to do what I need to do. Um,
yeah. It allows you to get closer to that line a bit.
yeah, but I mean, you don't have to do it that way. If you want to only make short form content, you can do that too, as long as you learn how to organize it in a way where, hey, there's a hook, and then there's the content, and then there's the take home message. And you can do that in a way that is authentic to you. You don't have to be a caricature of yourself.
Right.
But here's the kicker: your content's going to suck when you start.
Yes, it is. It is a love-hate relationship. I mean, I've been that guy on the patio where of like, this is the 12th take, this is the 15th take, and I have the information in my head. I know it like the back of my ass, and yet, you know, somehow if I was to have a conversation with an individual, it would spit out like Beethoven. But as soon as I put my camera in my face, it ends up coming out like
Yeah.
duh, 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 duh.
Dude,
So
talking to yourself is the most awkward thing ever.
yeah, yeah. So it gets easier because I end up just imagining I'm talking to someone else, talking to you, talking to my wife, something like that. But something you said that resonated with me is I completely agree about the delineation between content creator and educator, because I see all the time on social media where at the end of watching something, I'll go, holy shit, you went through all that effort to make this real. And that's the piece of information that you decided that you were going to put out.
Yeah.
Like, whether maybe it didn't take you 25 minutes or 30 minutes, maybe it took you five, or maybe you had someone do it. But like, if you're going to be someone who provides value to people, and that's what I want to do, provide value, then it has to be more than just surface level. And I know there's content that you want to reach a lower level and then you build them up and so forth. But honestly, I am not the coach that's going to be working with a lot of really new beginner based people.
Hmm.
So it's not going to be me teaching you how to do macros, or teaching you how to hip hinge. It's me moving you through becoming an intermediate to an advanced. So therefore, I want my education and content to show and present itself. Because I've had people say, "Man, you're too far over the bar with education. People are not going to understand." I said, "That's fine.
It's not for
I,
them.
yeah, I'm not here to reach that part of that population." Um, and I also don't want to be that content creator that's putting out, surface level fluff.
Hmm.
I will never be that person. So I look at that and I try and stay away from that side of the spectrum. And I look at kind of who I want to be on the opposite side of the spectrum. And I take what you just said to heart. I never want to be that type of person.
I think that speaks to a level of understanding of who it is that you're actually speaking to. This is an issue that I run into with a lot of the coaches that I mentor, is that they don't necessarily know who they're trying to reach. So they try to put out content that appeals to everybody, and they essentially end up speaking to no one because
Yeah,
no one raises their hand. Right.
correct.
So when I look at an educator like yourself, who is, you're talking about respiratory patterns, you're talking about foot pressure, you're talking about, limb arc model, you're talking about output on different exercises based on rib cage position. Like, these are very nuanced topics that most all beginner trainees have no business even thinking about until they just start training.
Hmm.
But that's your audience. That's the people that you want to reach. That's the framework that you want to teach within. So, yes, it does narrow the audience that you're trying to appeal to. But in this game, if the goal is marketing, right? So, on the surface, marketing is your prospects are the people who know who you are. Your leads are the people who have, interacted with you, and then your customers are the people who pay you. So, as long as you have prospects that are interested in what you're saying and you can nurture them into becoming leads and interacting with you, that's the goal of your content. That's the goal of the free information. And when you're talking about customers, you don't need a lot of customers to make a really good living. And
Correct.
I think that's where people miss.
Yeah, I think we had this part of this conversation last time about where I want to drive that part of the business, and I said
Mhm.
it's something I'd like to push, but I'm not willing to become something else that I'm not in order to get it there, because I know I won't be happy, it won't be fulfilling, and then I won't put forth my best effort as a coach. I am
Mhm.
first and foremost an in-person trainer. I'm out here doing my thing because of how good and how that name got tossed around. So that will always be first, but those lessons can be carried over to the online space for every single trainer who wants to be educated to the point where they can make the same decision making skills and thought processing skills and critical thinking skills that I do, or that you do, or people of our level with that level of information. And that's the target.
how do you bring people up from where they are to where they would need to be? And this is, again, a question that I ask selfishly because it's something that I battle with. How do you bring people up from where they are to where you need them to be, where they can actually benefit from your education?
Yeah. I mean, when we were in well, it's kind of the same thing Danny was in when we were in Danny's space, right? Which is
Hmm.
like a lot of this is like stuff that I've been studying for, well, her a lot longer than us. But she taught us, but it's I think she found out, and just like I found out, you need to be able to take the base of what my curriculum would be and take those pieces that would drive the needle for their clients and not necessarily have to get into the weeds of everything, but at least be able to get them to see the base level structure and change of that education, and then start filling in the blanks with all the deeper rooted stuff, right? So
Hmm.
it's like, if you take training exercises, you have your primary considerations, your secondary considerations, your tertiary implications, those things like that, right? Even the primary um, indicators of an exercise would be like the base level of my education. Even just that level of education, as you know, would 10x these 10x a trainer's education and ability to kind of get results for their client. So being able to lay that out in a clear manner, that's what education is. But I think that's what step one needs to be. It doesn't need to be, let's look at, anterior, posterior, lower diaphragm,
Yeah.
stuff like that, because it's like that's not going to matter, right? But let's understand what an upper diaphragm and a lower diaphragm does. Let's look what a pelvic floor does. Look how we have to talk about pressure. Do you even know how what pressure is inside the body? So
Hmm.
those base components, they go a long way, and you don't have to go very deep beyond level one to get them to be like, holy crap, you just changed the way I looked at training. And
Yeah.
then they buy in, and then you can start layering on stuff.
One of the things that, so I went to a business mastermind this past weekend and we talked quite a bit about content creation. And one of the things that resonated with me was if you're having trouble getting your content to stick, it's because you don't know what it is about you that people find interesting. So it's like a lack of self awareness. And that made me think a lot because over the last couple of months, I've been sharing a lot more of my personal journey. I've been sharing a lot more of my
Hmm.
personal reflections. You've seen it.
Yeah.
Dude, the amount of traction that my content's been getting since I've started sharing those things has been incredible. And it served a few masters. The first being I'm now developing a personal brand around the values that I hold and that I find important to me, which is super critical. The more important piece here is it creates relatability. And I think when people are approached with content or education that they find that is a bit too outside their comfort zone, it's almost unrelatable or out of reach. But one thing that I've noticed that you've been doing, and I have a feeling it was on purpose, but it might have been by accident, is you're sharing your physique and you're sharing your training, which makes it relatable because you're fucking jacked and strong. So and you're also not young either.
Correct.
So the clientele that you're after is going to be able to relate to the fact like, hey, this guy's like 40-ish and he's jacked and he's really strong and he's not in pain and he knows how to train in that manner. He's
Hmm.
probably somebody I need to learn from. So the relatability to me bridges the gap. And
Yeah.
that,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, no, you go ahead.
Um, I've spoken to multiple people who have said that same thing to me in direct relationship to my content of, you know, I sometimes forget how long I've been in this game, and I sometimes I keep assuming that um, people should know what I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to keep reflecting and saying that's not that maybe that's not the norm. So how do I get? how do I spice it up per se, like you were talking about? I need to be able to show my personality, right? That was the original intent with the cigar,
Hmm.
to kind of break the ice and let people know that,
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm not super serious all the time. I may look it, I may present myself that way when I'm in my workplace, um, but I'm usually sitting back, thinking, mulling things over, and that's how I relax. That's how I process. That's how I breathe.
Hmm.
And so that was the original intent of that. And I think then it evolved into, what the second component was. I really want to create some change, but I want to create some change in a way that is special to me or is direct to me. When my personality is, people called me an old curmudgeon. Fine, I'm fine with that until the people who are closest to me actually know me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they know the best about my nature. But again, presenting that part of my personality was like, here's the shit that's gotta die, guys, and here's the stuff we can do to kind of make it better. So slowly layering that on, I have not gotten to the point of where you're at, so to speak, where I'm really kind of piecing that together because of what I got going out here, and then I'll have to be able to juggle that with what I do back in the States. Um, so that's the next chapter, right? and
Yep.
and then just slowly building upon that, because I do know I do have the propensity to just kind of overshoot in terms of education, because it's what excites me. So I
Yeah.
always kind of have to bring that level back down. But I think you're 100% correct, and that will really broaden the amount of people that you'll see. But it was purposeful, because I know my physique content captures a lot of attention, and my education content captures a lot of attention from a small amount of people who do like that type of thing. So,
Hmm.
like, if I can continue to blend those back and forth and start crossing over those people, then they'll hopefully make the cross connection that, okay, he's not only teaching this, he's doing it. This is what he's obtaining. And then, just like you said, hopefully I can, grab the people that can grasp that.
One of the quotes, I put a quote up in my story today that was, amateurs procrastinate, professionals get it done.
I
And
saw that.
as a professional, like I would consider you to be a professional at every level, you're doing the thing. And by doing the thing, you're going to get data on the thing, and the thing will continue to get better.
Yeah.
And if there's an action item here, like I didn't want to turn this into like a social media masterclass, because obviously we're both not social media specialists.
It's
But
actually good, because I mean, I could use it.
well,
you
well,
know?
the beauty of it is I think a lot of people are battling with finding out, number one, who their ideal client is and who they want to talk to. Number two, how do they present their information in a way that resonates with the most people? And number three, how do they not turn themselves into a caricature while doing that? And there has to be an element of your personal brand. And this is where I wanted to kind of bring the conversation forward, because I think it's an important one for especially young coaches to have. Your personal brand used to be your expertise. Your personal brand used to be the specific knowledge base that you have. And one of the things that I am seeing over and over and over again is, with the advent of AI and the proliferation of its usage, education is a race to zero. Uh,
Mhm.
the the availability of knowledge at your fingertips, if you know the questions to ask, you can get better education that I could ever provide just by asking ChatGPT. So that level of security around your business needs to be something else. And what I've come to realize is that level of security, if you consider your business as a castle, the moat around that castle is your personal brand. No, you can replace education, but you cannot replace experiences, and you cannot replace stories. So we've been in this game a long time. We have a ton of stories. We have a ton of case studies. We have a ton of receipts.
Mhm.
So how do we share those receipts in a way that resonates with people, gets them to raise their hand and say, "Hey, I want to learn from this guy. I like the way he presents his information. I like the information that he's providing. I think it's that level of nuance that I'm interested in learning, because ultimately you are the person people come to when they have problems that no one else can solve.
Yeah.
So at some point as a coach, you're going to run into problems that you can't solve with normal conventional training modalities. So you're going to want to look to Jason and say, hey, teach me.
Mhm.
But they're not going to know who you are unless your personal brand captures them from the beginning.
Correct. And I think for the longest time, I haven't had to do that because um, for everywhere I went, just every time I went to a new location and a new home, um, I just stood out just because of my education, the way I trained,
Mm-hmm.
the professionalism, quote unquote, that you said, that I brought to the table. And then the outcomes that I got with my clients were something that the people in those environments weren't used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So my social media bubble was the gym that I was working at that time, or
Mm-hmm.
the client that I was working with at that time, and then them referring to someone else, a clinic, a doctor, whatever, right? And that was my social media bubble. I didn't have to get good at presenting myself, nor did I want to, because I got to work and talk to people. And then, of course, as you do this for as long as we have and you get older, you start wanting and prioritizing different things,
Mm-hmm.
time, financial things, things like that. So you have to make a shift. And sometimes um, that shift takes a little bit, it's a little bit harder to shift than maybe if it was 10 years ago. You
It's
know what I
also
mean?
uncomfortable. It's
Yeah,
really uncomfortable because
sure.
we're being asked to do things that we've never done before. Like, dude, I remember when I first started being able to take training videos on a fucking, you remember those cameras that had like a direct USB stick on them, and they were like a square camera that was like potato quality.
Oh yeah,
And
100%.
that was the first time I had ever been able to record myself lifting.
Yeah,
And then
we had we had one tripod. This was probably back in 2000, I don't know, 17. We had one tripod. This was when I was powerlifting with like the Lily Bridges and all those guys. We had one tripod that stood in the middle of the gym, and it had like one of those cameras on it, and all it did was just stare at the squat rack, right? And then when you wanted to change something, you just moved the tripod onto the next lift. So like that's where we've come from. And it's I still kind of get uncomfortable taking my stuff to the gym and
mhm,
setting it up and filming it because I mean, I've talked about this before, it means something to me, maybe more than it does to most people. But I don't want that being taken away from me. But again, there's that line that I have to be able to get close to in order for me to kind of do what I need and want to do.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, it that new level of discomfort, I think I've leaned into it because I see the opportunity to improve my communication skills. Like I remember when podcasting was initially really tough for me because I didn't necessarily know how to, get the most out of the guest or put them on a pedestal, so to speak, as I'm speaking to them. I really just wanted to sit down and have conversations. And ultimately, what I think has allowed me to do that better is just doing more podcasts. And when it comes to speaking on camera, the vlogs that I've been recording lately are infinitely better than the vlogs I recorded, a year ago or 2 years ago. And because of that, it's actually been more fun. So I'm doing them more often, which gives me more content.
mhm,
And at the end of the day, I just want to get better. I just want to get better because I know that the more I can put my voice out there, the volume in terms of quantity, the more quantity I can put out, the more opportunities I have to hit a bullseye.
sure.
Right? I'm no longer throwing a single dart at a time. I'm throwing handfuls of darts at that dartboard. And to me, that's kind of the way that I know I'm going to be able to be successful in the long term is just how much volume can I have? More people might hear me. And ultimately, if I'm being true to who I am and the content resonates, probably going to be in a good spot.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have a good outcome.
Yeah.
I think one
So,
thing you touched on that real quick is
yeah.
discomfort, and
Mm-hmm.
it's I think what challenges most people and what you've been challenged by, in your recent 1 to 2 years is you've seen what comes on the other side of that discomfort.
Yes.
And to be able to walk through that and say, okay, I was able to walk through it. I've seen what's on the other side of that discomfort. Now I'm going to look for that discomfort because I know what's on the other side of that. And I think from an education and teaching point, it becomes a vacuum, so to speak, for trainers who are starting out because they get comfortable. They don't have to be uncomfortable. They don't have to seek discomfort, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've been in situations where, and almost every location where I've ever trained at, where clients will leave a trainer there to come train with me. And that leads them to being discomfort or to having being uncomfortable, right? And then it's a trickle down effect. It's usually, okay, what are you doing that I'm not doing? And
Mm-hmm.
then they're okay with being uncomfortable or seeking some discomfort because that they know that what's on the other side is a better opportunity. But again, those are only going to be for those people who are okay with being uncomfortable. And I think in part some of my education and what I'm spewing out on social media is to make people uncomfortable.
Yep.
Is to be like, listen, if you're doing this is something that's 10, 15, 20 years old that we shouldn't be doing anymore, and you shouldn't be doing it. Or there's better ways of doing it. And if I see you doing it, you're going to be uncomfortable because I just put out a damn video about it, right? So it's like it's trying to make people open up and be like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't be doing it. Maybe I'm a little bit uncomfortable doing that because maybe I don't really know what it's doing. And so maybe on the other side of that discomfort is jumping in a DM and asking a question,
Mm-hmm.
or sending a message or reaching out in some way. And that's when they see the personality come out in me, because I'm like, in my head I'm like, damn, great job for just allowing yourself to be uncomfortable and do something hard, like reach out to another trainer who knows more than you and be like, hey, I'm just here willing to learn. And those are the people that I want to fuck with.
I have never met. Actually, I shouldn't say that because I met a lot of shitty people in this industry. There's a level of humility that comes with being asked a question. To know that you have the responsibility. When someone asks me a question, I look at that directly as a responsibility to help them in their journey, just the way that I was helped in mine. And that whole pay it forward idea, because I definitely know that I don't have all the answers, but I have a lot of them. Um, and in a lot of instances for me, when someone asks me a question that I don't know the answer to, it gets me excited because I have another branch on the tree to explore. What are some things as a young coach that you would look for in yourself to kind of use as motivation to keep learning? Because I think people get complacent. They're like, "Hey, I'm serving my clients to a high level, maybe. Uh, I haven't run into any problems yet. Why do I need to get outside my comfort zone now?"
Yeah, I think one thing if I read it or I saw, it was the decisions you make today aren't for the person you are today. The decisions you make today are for the person you are tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that.
Mhm.
So I think if trainers start looking at not where my career is at now or tomorrow, so to speak, but where is my career going to be at in 3 months from now, a year from now? Am I going to be in the same position, doing the same thing with the same clients and not really driving that needle forward? And if I am, are my clients going to stay? Because I can tell you what, if you're not somehow making an improvement with your clients, they are not going to stay, because they're going to see someone who's making better adjustments with different things and they are going to leave. So usually I would say, don't allow yourself to be in that situation. Be the trainer who's thinking about the person you're supposed to be 6 months from now. And I think it's okay to be that trainer who says, hey, I'm in a good pattern right now. I need to concentrate on my clients. I need to concentrate on this. I have a full-time business. Great. Allow yourself that little reprieve, But in the back of your head, it needs to be, who am I supposed to be in 6 months from now as a trainer, a year from now,
Mhm.
and then who can I go to maybe help look at that?
Yeah, this is where my grumpy curmudgeon comes in because I got into this. I simply just love training. I just loved everything about it, from the physical exertion to the creativity to the never ending problem solving. And that's always motivated me to move forward. And I literally have a note in my phone titled education, and it's questions that I don't have the answers to.
Absolutely.
And what I do every year is I highlight one or two of those questions and I try to dive deep into them. So, one of the areas for me this year that I really wanted to dive into was functional health, especially on the female side of things.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to be surrounded by some amazing people. One of my best friends, Meredith Patchy, and her business partner, Sarah
Oh,
Bishop, they have a
geniuses.
geniuses. They have a
Yeah.
mentorship that I've been in for the last almost a year, and it has just opened my eyes. And the beauty of it is, so I'm in a situation now where still dealing with some digestive issues from my prep. And I reached out to Meredith and I say, hey, listen, we have a monthly call every month. I want to use my monthly call as a case study on myself. Let's run a GI map on me and let's dive deep into it. Let me case study myself and my GI map, and then you're going to pressure test my theories.
Yep.
And to me, that's so exciting. Like I have goose. I had a call with her this morning. I'm like fucking fired up to shit in a bucket and well, shit in a hot dog container,
Yeah.
um,
A small
because
two.
I know that exercise is going to lead to knowledge, and that knowledge is going to help me help people, and it's going to expand my coaching practice, and it's going to allow me to look at my clients a little bit different. And it was the same thing when I registered for Danny's mentorship. That was another area. It's like, hey, you have a pretty good understanding of movement constraints, you have a pretty good understanding of biomechanics, but there's layers to this. You learned the layers while you were working with Danny as your coach. Let's work with her as a mentor and let's see if we can dive a little bit deeper into that and start to look at movement in a more nuanced fashion. And I'm doing all of this as somebody who owns multiple businesses and still serving a roster of clients and doing all the things. And the old curmudgeon in me is like, what the fuck are you doing with your time? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I know you feel the same way because you're always learning. You're never afraid to ask the questions. You're never afraid to reach out to the people that know more than you. And that's the reason why you mentioned, you've moved from state to state, from gym to gym, but you've also moved from like training crew to training crew, just trying to be around the best.
I was exactly say that. To go kind of right in parallel with what you were saying. I When I started, I wanted to be the strongest motherfucker in the room.
Me
I
too.
just I
Yeah. Fuck
I
yeah.
just I wanted to beat everybody. And there were some people I know I couldn't beat, but I damn sure knew well that I could put forth the same amount of effort to try. So it was, how the fuck did you get this strong at
Mhm.
this? How did you get that strong at this? And then you would go and you would ask questions and you would learn and you would try and beat that person. And sometimes I would, and sometimes it was just never going to happen. But that would ask you to ask questions, and then you'd get answers, and then you'd ask better questions because you'd want better answers. And you just learn to be like, okay, well, that didn't work because he's got 3 extra inches on his arms and I got T-Rex arms, so let's try and re-engineer this to a way maybe it works better for me. And then you start learning how to critically think, and then you go to a new environment and you're like, holy crap, you're ripped and you're strong, so how did you manage to do this too? And that's where I, so, that's where my education maybe selfishly came from. Was I wanted to be the strongest guy in that room, then I wanted to be the most jacked and ripped guy in the room, and then I wanted to keep it, and then I wanted to learn to train as long as I can injury free. So I kept piling on everything at the same time, and then here we are today, right? In some retrospect.
You think, and this is maybe where we get into the weeds a little bit, but do you think people get into this simply because they see a dollar sign and not necessarily are passionate about it?
Absolutely. I
that's the
think sometimes shit just falls in people's lap,
problem. Mhm.
and then they run with it, and then it's like, oh, this is easy. I'm like, well, hey, for me, being strong was never really easy. I mean,
Nope.
I could get strong, but to be as strong as I wanted wasn't easy. Getting ripped is certainly not fucking easy, right? Training for 15, 20 years without any, huge injuries is not easy, right? And some things are just they come easy to people, and you can tell because of the way that they present themselves and the way they present their information. It's surface level. It's just there,
Yeah.
and there's no real story behind it, like you, right? There's no depth, and then you realize, well, shit, this was just kind of handed over to this person. I don't
One of
want
the
to be around that,
I don't wanna be around that either, and I think this is where, the idea that if we don't I look at I look at my social media now as a responsibility.
Yes.
I look at it I have a responsibility to share my story. I have a responsibility to share my insights, and I can tell you that the more that I've shared, it's been returned to me tenfold. The number of people who have reached out and said, "Hey man, like your story is really inspirational. Like what you did was incredible." And I don't take that as like I don't take that how do I say this properly? I don't take that as praise. I take that as reinforcement because to me, I didn't do it for recognition. I did it purely for myself. So it's nice to be recognized, obviously, but in the same breath, that's kind of the meaningless part. The meaningful part is the fact that it created change for that person.
Correct.
And that is reinforcement enough to just keep doing it. And my journey is going to change. Like it's already changed. I'm already like taking on a new endeavor that I'm a complete and utter beginner at, and I have no business coaching people in. But as I get better at it, and as I go down the rabbit hole of concurrent training and endurance and being strong at the same time as as I'm conditioned, and there's going to be an element of me that develops a proficiency and now I can help lead others down that path. And it just creates a more robust toolbox. And there are areas in your journey where you have put yourself in a position to be a relative beginner.
Hmm.
Even though we have like years of training under our belt, like I'll put it to you this way, I'm 2 weeks into this training block, starting week 3 of training 16 times a week.
Yeah. Between your energy system stuff and your
Yeah,
training.
between
Yeah.
energy system stuff and 3 weight training sessions a week. And I'm like, I'm doing my RDLs with three plus plates and at like a RP6. I'm still really fucking strong. Like I could have pulled 600 this weekend and I haven't deadlifted in 13 months. So I'm the training that I've done to date hasn't gone anywhere. But from a skill acquisition standpoint, from a total training volume adaptation standpoint, yeah, I'm a fucking beginner. And to me, that's cool. That's like an openness. It's a white belt mentality, as they say.
Right. And
And
I bet
to
you
me,
thought when you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, you go.
I said, I bet when you thought you're in the beginning, you're thinking, shit, with this type of layering on different things, there's no way I'm going to be as strong as I'm going to be or as I want to be. And then you pulled whatever
Yeah,
you pulled, and you're like, oh shit. All right. Well,
yeah.
I guess this fatigue shit wasn't really a big problem in the first place.
Listen, the fatigue conversation is one that, like, if this has taught me
Not trying
anything,
to get you wild up.
no, like this morning. So I pulled that 575 on Saturday, and then I had a meal, and then I immediately went for a 1 hour ruck with 50 pounds on my back. And then yesterday was a rest day. And today I woke up fucking like invalid, like crippled,
Yeah.
but I had to go for a run. And I'm running and I'm like, oh, my times are better than they were last week.
Go
Fatigue is
figure.
fatigue is such a cope. I
Oh
think
my God.
people
Yeah.
I think people are just fucking pussies.
Yes. It's a band aid.
It's like, oh, I don't want any axial fatigue, so I'm gonna sit down and stabilize everything. Like, cool, man. Good luck staying healthy over the long term because you have a glass ceiling of
Yes.
joint stability, like
living in your vacuum. Yeah.
living in your vacuum. My favorite are these videos now. Have you seen this with like people hooking up daisy chains to their
No, I
like
can't.
wrists and
I can't.
elbow?
See, that's when I stopped looking. That's when I literally put my phone down. I'm like, no, I just can't. Like, do you?
It's
It's like you've jumped so far into the depths of something else that you've created such a narrow vacuum that now you've forgotten how synergistic muscles work and how it can provide an environment to where you could actually have more motor unit recruitment and actually use the
mm,
Golgi tendon organs of that actual muscle to provide more isolation. It's like you've gone past and 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 superseded yourself into the depths of some just shithole, and you've forgotten, or you just haven't taken the time to learn everything that was before that.
my favorite part is the
It's just
people who do that shit are fucking skinny.
yeah, they're just yeah.
Like
And
I actually I put this in a post a long time ago of like, if you're doing an exercise with the goal of hypertrophy and you've never seen anyone with an appreciable amount of muscle mass doing that movement, I think that's a big indicator that it's probably not something you should spend some time on.
yeah, yeah.
Like people who poo poo on barbell rows.
Oh,
It's
I
like
mean,
barbell rows are not going to build like they're not going to give you great lats in specific.
no, but I
But
tell you what, when I was barbell rolling 405, my deadlift was 700 plus,
yeah,
easy.
and you were probably fucking thick as hell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so like, go
Duh.
figure.
Go figure. I remember like back in the day, remember Matt Kroxaleski?
Absolutely,
And he
croc
used to
rows.
do those, yeah, croc rows. It's like put a strap on, haha, pun, funny. Um, put some straps on, grab the heaviest dumbbell that you have in the gym and row it until your arm is about to fall out of the socket
Right.
and repeat.
Yep.
You're telling me you won't build a big back?
Yep.
Oh, but there's so much fatigue. Good. Fatigue builds fitness.
Well, that fitness fatigue model is, like I said, that's back there behind the shit that they forgot to look about.
Jesus Christ. Um,
See, that's that level of education that you talked about, having a base level of education. Instead, they saw Chris Beardsley and they saw Paul Carter at one point talk about, neuromechanical matching and how, the brain's the only thing that's going to tell the body what to do, and so you need to be able to make it the most stable. And they took that and they ran with that because they both got 10,000 plus whatever followers. So let me do that, right? It's clout chasing and it's rage baiting, and then I don't buy into it.
yeah. So if anyone takes anything away from the conversation up until now, it's that it's that we're both curmudgeons, and
Yes. Yeah.
no, it's that your ability to appeal to a specific person, serve that specific person, provide value for that specific person in a way that is in alignment with your values and your priorities as an authentic version of you is what's going to build your following. I don't want 100,000 followers of people who just want to just like my physique. Number one, my physique isn't that great. Number two, I'm also not super strong anymore. So if you're following me, it's going to be because you want something of deeper value, and I'm totally all about that.
Yeah.
Right? Um, One of the things that I wanted to ask you is, as you're going through this process of creating more content and trying to get your voice out there more, are you finding a common thread through your content that is leading to people towards your education or the services that you offer? And I'll classify my question. So, one of the principles of Master Athletic Performance and of Coaches Corner University for us, our through line is raising the bar. And one of the ways that we do that is like, okay, we're going to use training and nutrition as a vehicle for personal development on the coaching side. I'm going to use education as a vehicle for personal development on the education and mentorship side. For you, as you're sharing more of your content, have you found sort of a through line that fits with what you want to talk about, who you want to talk to, and the services that you offer? Because that's, to me, marketing.
Um, I think somewhere in there, yes. Have I streamlined it? No.
Mhm.
But I think it's narrowing down to almost like we talked about previously, about uh, being a better version of yourself as a person, as an educator that
Mhm.
you were today, tomorrow, right?
Mhm.
So allowing yourself the allowing yourself the ability to be uncomfortable, seek discomfort, and then prepare yourself to be a better version of yourself as a trainer, as a coach for tomorrow. And I think part of that was saying, hey, these are the things that need to die in the past, and these are the things that you can do in the future. Hence, that type of content was, if you catch yourself doing these things, maybe you're not focusing on how you can be better for your clients or yourself in the future.
I love
And
that.
I think just allowing, like you said, and I think at the end of our last podcast, you asked me a really insightful question, and it stuck with me. Um, and my answer was live in your truth, or be true to
Mm.
yourself.
Yes.
And I keep continuing to stand by that. And I think if you're able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I'm not going anywhere right now. I'm just being complacent. And if you're really to live in your truth and say, that's not what I want to be and that's not who I am, then you make a decision to move forward. And I think the information that I'm trying to put out, and put it out in a way that's saying, hey, maybe you're doing this, maybe this is a better way, this is how you can move forward. Because my original, I don't know, spiel when I put my first PTU video out was, I want to move the needle forward in this field.
Mhm.
That's why I'm doing it. And so if everything I'm going to do and everything I can do is going to be about looking in the past and then looking in the future. And so my next series of videos, and again, this is my wife because she's a creative genius and I'm just a meathead, is she said, you have years and years. And if anybody else does this, I will fucking come find you, because don't steal it. But you have years of training videos. Why don't you take those training videos, green screen yourself on them, and then critique your younger self to what you would do differently now,
It's a fantastic idea.
right? And
Mhm.
that works perfectly for the location and what I'm doing now, because I don't have the ability to record things. So I can take all that information in that video and say, hey, let's look at the past, let's look at the present. And I think that's the line that I'm trying to drive through
Mhm.
PTU, through the individuals that come to me and say, hey, I want to be a better version of myself for me tomorrow, not necessarily for me today. I want to be more educated for myself tomorrow, not so much, the person I am today.
I think that's beautiful, because ultimately that's what's going to move the needle for you, but that's also what's going to move the needle for your clients, which is why we're all in here in the first place, is to serve others to a higher level. Um, does Trump know that you smoke Cuban cigars?
Well, it was not Cuban. It was it's Nicaraguan. So no, I did not break any embargo. And
Okay.
actually, a Cuban's not really that good compared to other good stuff. So that's a different story for another
I
time.
literally have smoked maybe one cigar in my whole life, so I
Oh,
wouldn't know.
well, if we ever hook up, we're smoking a cigar together. So there.
Okay. You got yourself a deal, brother. Um, what's been your favorite part about being in the part of the world that you're in now, Saudi Arabia?
Um, the coffee,
Really?
dude. There's a coffee shop every 10 feet, and it's
Oh,
good. And the you can get a large Americano for $2.95.
well, hell
Yes.
yeah. So you're
Yes.
heavily
So
caffeinated right now.
I'm jacked up on caffeine all day, right? Some things are pleasantly cheap in this area of the world, other things are not. But the coffee's refreshing, the people are refreshing. It's been a trip out here, so I think, and the food's actually really good.
Oh yeah, dude. Arabic food, amazing.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
half Lebanese,
yeah,
so
all the
very
shawarma and
familiar.
mixed grill I could eat, man.
Hell yeah. Dude, I've really appreciated this. I love your perspective on the industry. I love your perspective on education, and you're someone who I really enjoy following. And I love seeing the evolution. I love seeing people put themselves in positions to leverage their superpowers. And I think you're doing a fantastic job. And I look forward to seeing more of it.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, coming from you, and I mean this in the most genuine way. I see you as a pioneer in a lot of things. So
I appreciate that.
um, it's the feeling is mutual for sure.
Thank you so much. I'll have links to where everyone can find you in the show notes. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and we'll catch you on the next one.